Hey, welcome to Book Nerds, a book club for doctor entrepreneurs, the podcast where we explore top books on leadership, business, and personal growth to help doctors and practice owners build thriving practices and fulfilling careers. I'm Kyle Clutie, joined by my esteemed co-hosts, Dr. Brianna Rue and Dr. Aaron Werner. Each month, we break down an inspiring book, challenge each other with fresh ideas, and share actionable insights to help you lead better, work smarter, and live well. So this week, we decided on Essentialism by Greg McKeown, I think. McKeown, maybe is how you pronounce his name. But I think this is actually the 10-year. This is not the 10-year anniversary copy, but I actually listened to the new 10-year anniversary copy. So I'll kick it off to you, Brianna. What, in its essence, was the essence of Essentialism? How would you describe that book to our listeners?
This hit home because I think as you're going through life, you have to say yes a lot. And we say yes to patients, we say yes to families, friends, our jobs. And then there gets to a point where you said yes too much and you have to go back on that and start saying no. So the biggest thing is really, we can play it with the M&M. It's cleaning out your closet, right? And figuring out what's giving you purpose, what's giving you passion. And one thing that let home here is that not all motion is progress. So we now in this society more than ever equate activity with results too often. And that's leading to decision fatigue. So it's designing your life with intention, not sleeping through it with somebody else's to-do list. So the biggest takeaway is what are you saying yes to? And that's what it's giving you a breakdown on how to explore it. What are the things to focus? So explore, eliminate, and execute, which we'll get through in the book.
Yeah, it's excellent. I'll read from page 7. The way of the essentialist means living by design, not by default. I love that kind of parallelism there. Living by design, not by default. Instead of making choices reactively, the essentialist deliberately distinguishes the vital few from the trivial many, eliminates the non-essentials, and then removes obstacles so the essential things have clear, smooth passage. In other words, essentialism is a disciplined, systematic approach for determining where our highest point of contribution lies, then making execution of those things almost effortless. That sums up the book quite well. Good job there, Greg. Way to sum that up.
He did write a short letter.
Yeah, he did, for sure. He did. He is a good essentialist for his own book, for sure.
And as we were going through it too, what did you see?
Well, I think it, like you, Brianna, this hit home. And I am have 2 black bags that have gone to Goodwill this month, thanks to the book. The challenge will be not replacing that stuff in the closet because I have a problem. We might need an intervention to help me become an essentialist. But I liked the idea, and you pointed out perfectly, Kyle. It's by design. It's a system, and where the hit home part came from was when I'm not being essential, I'm really reactionary, and I'm not in control. Is kind of the message that I took, and even filling my Samba shoe habit and an addiction because I have to have them in a different color, right? Being able to say no, I don't need another pair of shoes, or I don't need another travel backpack. Was me being in control as opposed to giving into the desire to I want it right now.
Yeah, I loved how this was I wrote down, instead of having, because we all have FOMO now more than ever, because way back when, not even like with our parents' generation, right? They were competing against a local community. That's really all they had reference to. Yes, they had the news that they could watch and get some idea what was going on, but they were able to disconnect it. Now we're actually not able to disconnect any of that. And so I wrote no over FOMO because he talks a lot about what you're saying yes to versus what you're saying no. And yes is an impulse right in the moment. And then after you say it is when now all of the bad stuff feeds into it, versus no is being the uncomfortable start at the point and then realizing you did the right thing.
Yeah, and I think that plays into, I think you had a post recently on LinkedIn, Brianna, that I think you had like a picture of a sign that basically said one direction was I want to, and the other one is I have to, and it's the
Yeah.
opposite direction. And I think he mentioned that. I forget what chapter that was, but that really plays into it as well as trying to figure out like, the essentialist essentially, I shouldn't say essentially, the essentialist chooses or makes decisions based upon what they choose to do versus the non-essentialist. And that's really the differentiation he constantly makes throughout the book. Like he's every single chapter basically says, hey, the essentialist thinks and acts this way, the non-essentialist thinks and acts this way. So that's a great way of setting things up. But the essentialist would say, hey, I choose to do this because I want to do this. Whereas the non-essentialist would say, I have to do this. They feel like they have to do it. It's, again,
Yep.
going back to what you said, Aaron, it's by default, it's reactionary instead of proactive.
Yep. And I love early on in the book when he really in big bold print says, if you don't prioritize your life, someone else will.
It's
And
absolutely true.
and that was the theme that ran through the whole rest of the book for me, is really how to take control of your life,
Mm.
which is interesting looking at the words my kids use, the how they explain situations, the words my team uses and my staff. It's really easy to fall into I don't have a better word for it, but victimhood, right?
Mhm.
My patients didn't buy from me. The rep told me I would make a lot of money if I bought this equipment. The government is out to get me. It's always
Mhm.
something happening to me and never me taking control, the hypothetical me, of my life. And if you don't put control in your life and take control of it, somebody else is going to. And it was pretty empowering thinking that and getting to the just say no part and even throwing all that crap from Goodwill. Right? It feels good when you just get rid of all the clutter.
Yeah, I think that's the power of the book. Did you listen or read it?
I did
Did you guys
both,
read it?
and listening to it was really cool because the audiobook guy was British. And
Oh,
so when
nice.
somebody speaks to you with a British accent, it's always more important than if they
Well, I think that's Greg.
an
He
American
is
accent. Is
British.
that Greg? Was it reading
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
So
he
yeah.
it's
He
has a
sounds super
podcast.
smart.
yeah, you
Oh,
sound
really?
super smart when you're British, right? It wasn't Australian
Yeah.
because they sound more laid back and just cool, but that British uh, uh, academic voice was pulling me in.
But what I thought was cool in the audio version is I didn't go back and reread my original copy, but the audio version was the 10th anniversary uh, version, and it basically, he had some things in there like all the famous people that told him after the fact that they read or listen to this book on an annual
Yeah,
basis as a reminder, and I find that would be super helpful because these are things that are like such so foundational to personal and professional success that you do have to remind yourself of them all the time of like, okay, I don't have to be reactive, I need to be proactive. Don't be out of control, like, choose to be in control.
There was one part
absolutely.
in the very first opening. He says, we all think that time is going to magically appear, right? So, time to do things you want will not magically appear. You have to make the space for it. And I think where specifically optometrists, dentists, we're all in this really cool area that we really can design our schedules. So you can go
Yeah.
from a 5-day work week to 4 to 3 to like you really have, whether you're an associate, employed OD, whatever it may be, you really can design this to find your highest purpose and see the patients you want to see, knowing that it's feeding other things. And that's, I think, what I really took home from that was I've given myself that space. It does
Yep.
cost you, right? And that's when
Mhm.
we go back to why we start a book club was the buy back your time book. All of
Mhm.
us have taken time to invest in that to get the crap off of our plate that literally just suck your energy. So one of the cool things that you can do is give yourself 45 minutes or an hour and just write down what's zapping your energy, what's giving you energy, and look at your schedule and book it along those lines. And he even says, like in the 21-day challenge, which I think we all should do, at the back of the book, is what's one thing that you said yes to that you know should have been
No.
a no,
Hmm.
and go back and make it a no.
I don't want to admit that. But that'd be good accountability.
That would be. But along the same lines, I was thinking this through the book, and I know you guys get the same question too, is how do you do so much? Right? And I think when people tell me that, they're meaning it as a compliment, but it really frustrates me, and I haven't got a good answer. I don't have a good answer back other than, lots of caffeine, because I've got the same hours in the day as everybody else. I've got the same commitments in the day as everybody else. And when I hear, I don't know how you do so much, you do it all. I don't do it all. I guess I just plan better. I take better control. I think I am pretty good at saying no. I need to be better, but I'm not an outlier. I mean, you guys both are incredibly busy. Kyle, you put out a kick-ass newsletter that, takes a ton of effort to put into and look at. Kyle, Brianna, you're running multiple companies, right? We all have families. So there's nothing unique about what we're doing other than I think that, at least in my case, I say no to, listening to silly music in the car, and I listen to an audiobook instead. Or I've always got a book with me or my Kindle with me. So if I need time to work on something, whether I'm sitting on a plane or waiting for my kid to get done with practice, I can do that. I think we choose how we manage our time a little bit differently. But it's...
Is that your answer, Aaron, when someone asks you that? Because maybe we go around the room and answer that question. Like, how do you answer it? Because I know how I answer it.
Well, the just in passing answer is, black coffee and Red Bull is when somebody asks me how I do it. But the real
really
answer is
me.
I don't watch TV. I don't have social media on my phone. And I've purposely set the things that I want to do where it needs to get done. And I'm not like you guys. I don't wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I still haven't pulled that up yet. I go to bed by 9 o'clock at night. So I try to get a full 8 hours sleep. I prioritize that. But I just make sure that I eliminate as many of the distractions as I need to. But and you find time everywhere. I think, who was it? John Acuff talked about stealing the time here and there. I mean, my daughter's soccer games, she's got to be there an hour early. That's a whole hour where I get to sit, put some headphones on, either listen to an audiobook or read an audiobook or catch up on emails on my phone. Or I could watch a Netflix show. One is going to add value, one's not going to add value.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's how I find it.
For sure. Yeah.
How do you answer that question, Kyle?
I mean, I jokingly say the same thing, just, lots of coffee and no sleep. But for me, like how I usually answer it is I love early mornings. You guys know that. And I've been wired that way for decades. And so I've had that routine where I've just enjoyed reading. And I know, like, I think it's two aspects. One is I'm not a multitasker. I know that about myself. I cannot be, doing multiple things at the same time. So I know I have to have like specific blocks of time carved out. But even just like an hour to an hour and a half, if I can get 60 to 90 minutes in the morning by myself working on projects, like you can get a ton done in just an hour or so a day. And if you're the type of person where you can spread that out into 15-minute increments, throughout the day, or if you're like me, it's like, no, I got to have a block of time, 60 to 90 minutes before the rest of the family gets up. It's amazing how like compounding that work gets, right? It just compounds itself as you go. So whether it's just you're reading something or reading a book because you can get through, a chapter in 15 to 20 minutes of a book, right? Or like you said, when I hop in my car, it's either a podcast or putting on Audible to listen to a book for my, 15-minute commute, whether it's, the Omaha office or the 45-minute commute to my Iowa office. So, I don't feel like I work overly hard, but I know like I just enjoy what I'm doing, and I know how to prioritize those hours, and I need those hours.
I think part of it is when you make what looks like work to everybody else look fun is when you get these comments, right? And we're not all saying that every day is rainbows and butterflies. We all have our priorities. But we
Hmm.
also talk about the crap together. Like you should see,
Hmm.
you should see our text threads. Like it's nice that you're not alone. And I think that's what this, we do actually like to share that. If you look even to like my grandparents' generation, they just never complained. They were just never allowed to complain. And they had 8 kids. My grandmother had 8 kids. Could you imagine? Like she had to put a drinking fountain in her house because she was so sick of washing cups. She put a
That's
water
awesome.
fountain in their house. Um, and then when she had grandbaby, she was just completely done. Like grandbaby just, she's like,
I'm
guys,
out.
I'm checked out. I did it. I'm not doing grandma again. But when I get asked that question, my response is, I don't do it all.
Mm.
I don't.
So,
I have an amazing team that I can trust full heartedly. Doesn't mean they don't drive me nuts like everybody else, right?
Yep.
I've got an amazing husband that lets me be me. I've got 2 kiddos that are in that, they're 8 and 3. Like that's a lot. They're very demanding, right? But it's also being ready for the yes in certain scenarios. And it's that time blocking. Like even if it's, we get through a book a month, we're not overdoing it here.
yeah.
And what 10 pages adds up to, people are like, when do you read? Again, like there's so many times you can just wake up 10 minutes early and do the first step. We've talked about that in both Atomic Habits, and it just keeps building on it. But the
Right.
decision fatigue that has come on all of us, and I see that that's what's really stifling a lot of people when it comes to making a decision when it comes to doctor contact lens or something that you want to bring in with dry eye or myopia management, is you just don't know where to start. The first step is making a decision. And companies that are going to be here 5 years from now, I don't want this to ever sound like doom and gloom, but it's going to be people that can make decisions.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yep. Well, I love
Absolutely.
your mentality that you turned me on to. In fact, I even found little keychains. I don't have mine with me, but a little shark guy, the little Lego shark guy, because you said, hey, we need to be, as practice owners, we need to be the sharks. And the vast majority of answers on Shark Tank are, for that reason, I'm out. Right? And it's never, very rarely is it your product sucks. Right?
Hmm.
It's for, that's not my skill set. That's not something I'm engaging, whatever the case may be. Right? It's for that reason, I'm out. And I think that if we start hearing and practicing that within practice more, uh, that helps to help us get ready for the yes. I love that, Brianna, and helping us prepare for the yes by getting rid of all the other distractions. If I
Yeah,
want to
how
be a
many times
dry,
are you on the floor and you're
yeah,
like, that looks fun, but
yeah,
For
that's
me,
fun, but that's not the direction I'm
that's not
going
for
in.
me.
So thanks for letting me play with
hmm
it. Thanks for the time, right?
Yeah.
And
hmm
in 2 years, maybe that's the direction we'll go. But for right now, we're not. And I think from the vendor standpoint, they appreciate the honesty because they know where
hmm
not to spend their energy. For your team's standpoint, they appreciate that too. We don't need to spend our energy on this because they know the direction you're going.
hmm
Hate the be back bus. Do you guys know what the be back bus is?
I'll be back.
I don't like it. I
See,
don't
I'm out.
understand your message.
I'll
I'm
be
out.
back.
Like,
Great pitch, but I'm out. All right. I've
Yeah.
got this is a good lead in to about I think 5 or 6 areas in the book that I think we should hit on here. One of them, I think they kind of go hand in hand. One of them is the chapter on buffers or margins. Like when
Uh-huh.
I go back, when I've reread this book, like these are the places where when I read those, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, I need to like ingrain this into the fibers of my being. One of them is buffers and margins, and the other one, I will admit again, is sleep. No matter how many studies I read on sleep, and however many books tell me I need to sleep more, I still struggle with sleep. Uh, I'm going to read and I posted this on LinkedIn too, but basically on page 101 and 102 talks about sleep because we did kind of talk about it. But I love the phrase "our highest priority," and maybe that's why he loves it too, because if you can see, it's like giant letters.
Yep.
There you go. Is our highest priority is to protect our ability to prioritize. Like when it comes down to it, your highest priority is to protect your ability to prioritize. And based upon his research and his criteria for that, it is sleep. He says, yet, as the logic of an essentialist explains, in reality, there are only a few things of exceptional value, with most everything else being of far less importance. The problem with being sleep deprived is that it compromises our ability to tell the difference and thus our precious ability to prioritize. And I think that's like experientially so true, right? Like you just, I feel like days where I'm running on like 5, 6 hours, there's just no ability to like be in control. Like going back to what we talked about, design versus default. And if you're sleep deprived, you're in default mode all the time. You're in reactive mode all the time, and you're scattered. You're not focused. So I just, yeah. Again, it was helpful for me. I don't know how that landed on either of you two.
Yeah, I think we are always raised. You're on mute, Aaron.
I was going to say, sorry. I think the word for me was survival mode when you're sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Right. You're just trying to get through. You're not trying to win. You're just trying not to die. And I found that the majority of my issues are minimized after a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
So I'm really worried about something, just sleep. Nothing's gonna happen over the nighttime. But when you wake up, it's a smaller problem to tackle.
And that you like listen to yourself more, right? So that's there's a reason that people say sleep on it.
Yeah.
And when you wake up in the morning, you know what you need to do. But now comes the execution part. So he says the non-essentialist thinks that sleep is for failures, sleep is a luxury, and sleep breeds laziness, and sleep gets in the way of doing it all. But the essentialist says sleep is for high performers, sleep is a priority, it breeds creativity, and enables the highest level of mental contribution. So one thing that I've been working on is just sitting, like just being. It's something I'm working on with my coach because we're always just go, go, go. And in the other book that we read, the Positive Intelligence course that all three of us went through, that one really hits with me, where it's like just taking a minute to breathe and reset. So when I bought into my practice, or when I joined my practice, Dr. Garmizo always took a nap after lunch. He put his feet back and he reclined for 15 minutes, and he was out in like 30 seconds.
Wow.
Never set a timer, would instantly, he'd go through one rep cycle and wake up.
Love it.
And now looking back at that, I was like, that's freaking cool.
That is cool.
Still does it.
It's great. I think back to like my dad. My dad. I'm from a long line of farmers out in middle Nebraska, and my dad would always say, and he's an extremely hard worker, and he would always joke with, "Oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm good." And I remember that mentality, I think, has been kind of ingrained in me too, of like, oh, I just like, I want to be like the family. I want to carry on the lineage of my farm family and just grind it out. It's okay. Just keep going. Even if I've only got 5 or 6 hours of sleep, just get her done. So I know that that's like something that I'm proud of in terms of, where I came from, but also one of those things like, well, I gotta try to figure that out and tweak that a little bit. But another area, we'll move on to the buffer. So page 178, 179. This is another chapter that, like I said, hit me pretty hard, but I'm going to read the non-essentialist versus the essentialist in terms of buffering. The non-essentialist assumes the best case scenario will happen and forces execution at the last minute. The essentialist builds in a buffer for unexpected events and practices extreme and early preparation. And what hit me here is I feel like one of the things that I've learned about myself in terms of just like personal growth is that the more I hurry, the more I like am whether it's a mood or just in a season of hurry from one thing to the next, the less healthy I am, emotionally, spiritually, all of those things, relationally. Like one of the mantras that I've remind myself is just like, don't hurry, stop hurrying, don't hurry. And that has been like, and so that's why I find that this is pretty profound. He talks very specifically like, hey, uh if your drive to work, worst case scenario takes you 12 minutes, best case scenario takes you 7 minutes, don't always plan on it taking you 7 to 8 minutes, right? So just build in the buffer. That's a
Yep.
really, really practical, small thing. But just think about doing those things for all of your life, both just with your time management, with your patient management, with your team management, with your financial management. What if you always built in an extra, 25, 50% in terms of time, an extra 25 to 30% in terms of financial, buffer for whatever project it is. Like that'd be life changing, I think, for a lot of people in a lot of practices.
I think the buffer situation, as doctors especially too, where it's that control mentality, where I don't know what they inject in us in school, but like I am always 5 minutes late, because it's just like a control thing, maybe with I
Mhm.
don't know what it is. And my son, I have to be careful with the words that I use with him. Like if we say we're going to be late, he is upset. And so I've always said, okay, we're going to be right on time if we leave right now. We want to be on time. Let's leave right now. And it changes him. So when I say that word late, it just gets him in a, like, I can see him go into fight or flight. So it's also be careful with the words that
Hmm.
you're speaking to yourself. So like you said, Kyle, like, don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry. And you can tell if you get in a hurry, right? Your heart rate
Mhm.
goes up, your breathing gets shallow, you start tensing your muscles, and then you don't make good decisions. Because how many times with that patient where I call it on to the next syndrome. I have a new article coming out on just that. So it's slowing down with
Mhm.
each patient encounter, and you'll see your revenue go up. You'll see your staff is happier, and that's what we've been taught. Is it's just on to the next
Mhm.
post, on to the next thing, on to the next patient, on to the next day, on to the next second, without living right here. So, and
Yes.
Vision Expo West, Venus Williams spoke, and one of my favorite takeaways from her, she said, when I was prepared for a match, I just went out and played the game. When I was anxious was when I was underprepared. And it's giving yourself that time. If you have a talk coming up that's in 3 months, don't wait until the week before. Give yourself that time to curate the ideas, and you'll be better because you can
Mhm.
see preparation. And that's what I think, need to allow ourselves more.
Yeah, it's
Well,
creating those buffers.
the Myopia Collective. CooperVision and the AOA have partnered in a groundbreaking initiative to change the way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, and hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today. In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being. Yeah, I think it's the buffers, and a lot of my friends are ex-military, and a lot of them are special forces. So that the phrase "slow is smooth and smooth is fast" has
Mm.
always stuck with us, and what that means to me, and I teach our team, is that you know learn what you're supposed to do slowly, so you get it right, and it becomes part of just who you are, and then you get through those things quickly. It's kind of like watching a seasoned optometrist refract. Right? They don't have to look at the phoropter anymore. They can do the 1-2 game perfectly while documenting with their left hand and drinking a cup of coffee with their right hand. And who knows how they're
Hmm.
turning the dials, but they are.
Hmm.
As opposed to the student, when you were really paying attention to which way you're going and you had to watch every time. So you start building in your everyday habits, and then that way, when something unexpected comes along, you don't have to panic and restart over because you already know your base. And so for me, the buffer conversation was a lot more of just anticipate something's not going to happen. Expect something to go wrong, so that way when
Yeah.
it does, you're not surprised. You just maybe not even go wrong, just something outside the ordinary. It pops up, so you're no longer surprised. You were expecting it to begin with.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I want to before we jump on, Brianna, you brought up something I loved because I instituted this at the office too on watching your words. And I put a ban this month on our office of using the word busy because everybody was busy and they couldn't tell me what they were doing other than I was really busy. I said, were you effective? Were you productive? Did you accomplish? It was really busy. Well, what the hell does that even mean, right? And so I love that you brought up words and what they choose. So there's only a few words that are banned in the office. One of them's fair. The other one's now busy. I don't care about cuss words. I just don't want those two.
What's the fair?
Oh, I
Yeah.
hate fair. That's not fair. Well,
Oh, I
life ain't.
see.
Life's not fair. Like there's no fair fairy that flies around and how do you define fair? It's just I hate that word because it's a made up word that again says I'm a victim and something I didn't like the way something happened and how I perceived the situation. So I got rid of that word and I got rid of now I got rid of busy.
Fair and busy. I like it.
So the
Awesome.
rest, it kind of goes through those three things. So the explore, so it's explore, eliminate, and execute. Is that the
Hmm.
three?
Yeah. The best I thought when we yeah, eliminate is the last one, or is it execute? Eliminate, execute.
I
Um,
think execute.
that last part,
Explore, eliminate,
progress.
execute. Yeah.
Progress was a great chapter in the execute section. So progress on 194 through 196. What I really like is how he, of course, he's an essentialist because he wrote the book, but he's just so good at boiling down concepts to really, simplified approaches. And let me just find 194, 196. He talks about the two core motivations for you and your team. There are two primary, it's on 196, two primary internal motivators for people are achievement and recognition of achievement. And I think that's so true. Like I've never really thought about it that way. I mean, you hear about all sorts of different motivations. I don't know if you've heard of the Daniel Pink's book Drive, but he talks about like what motivates people, and there's three different primary ones. And I don't know if I could recall them right off the top of my head right now, but it just makes a lot of sense that it's bottom line, it's the work. People get motivated by the work itself, or it's for the applause of the work, right? So it's the work or it's the applause for the work. And I think that's a really helpful understanding or framework to not only look at yourself, to really think deeply about, hey, how do I actually get like rewarded or motivated by things? Am I motivated by the work itself because the work is really pleasing and I like to win? Or is it because I like the applause from others when I win? And it might be a little bit of mixture of both, but it's helped me recently just thinking about my team, like, hey, and I don't think there's one that's wrong or right or anything like that. It's just a matter of like, hey, when you can identify that with your team, what do they actually want from me to help them make progress at their work and make small wins? Do I need to help them just execute their work itself? Or more so, do I need to applaud them when they are actually doing so? When they're celebrate them when they're executing on the small wins.
And you actually reward yourself, because as the boss, you're like, if I just hit this milestone, then I'm going to get there. And a lot of the times you don't do it. You don't actually go through with the award. So that's the accountability buddies, where it's like, when I get here, this is what I'm going to do for myself. And actually follow through on that, because then that's going to be an empty promise, and that leads to nowhere. So I actually had the opportunity last week. Jay Shetty, the guy that became a monk, he wrote a book. He was in town, so we went and saw him, and he talks now a lot about, and we are all out of when social media, like our childhood years when we got social media, we all were established with a really strong sense of self. Kids now, post 2007, 2008, don't have a lot of that confidence that they needed as kids. And so they're getting a lot of it externally. So he said something, he goes, people are so worried about what you think that I think that you're thinking, that we like just are in this never ending loop.
Wow.
And in one conversation, you're so worried about what the other person is thinking about you. They're so worried about what you're thinking about them that you literally get nowhere.
Yeah.
So that was
wow.
eye-opening. And he had someone come up to the stage, because she had this like really negative self-talk. She actually wanted to take her life, and now she's like a suicide preventionist. And he had her close her eyes, like he put a blindfold on her, had her put headphones on, but she shared her story before he did that. And then he went out into the audience and asked 5 people what they saw in her, and read them back to her. And it was all positive things. It was nothing was like, we saw gratitude in her, we saw that she wanted to help others. But you go to that one negative comment always and don't see the other 100 positive things. So I think that's where that motivation comes from.
I think it comes back to as well, like we read The Gap of the Gain. Gosh, how long ago was that? A year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Long time ago, right? But that's the same thing of, are you living in the gap? Are you comparing yourself to this ideal that you think you need to live up to? Or are you just thinking about, hey, what small gains did I make today? What small areas of progress did I do today that I'm better today than I was yesterday? It's very similar mindset of reminding yourself. It's taking yourself out of that position of comparison.
And a lot of it's identity too, right? Being comfortable with yourself, and I think part of the challenge that you alluded to, Brianna, is we don't have conversations with ourselves, and so we don't know who we are, which is why, especially private practice owners, I've asked this multiple times in a room full of people, that on Tuesday you see a kid and you diagnose a brain tumor, you send him off to the neurologist. On Wednesday, you get the note that he had surgery that day and you saved his life. Thursday, there was an unhappy patient in the optical. So Friday morning, you wake up to a 1-star Yelp review. Right? You're having a cocktail Friday night. Are you celebrating what you did for the kid, or are you drinking because you're miserable about that 1-star Yelp review? And every time I've asked the question, every head in the room goes down, because I think we all know what most of us would do. And to me, that's purely an identity challenge, because if you know who you are and you're confident in who you are, it's okay if somebody doesn't like you. I just wasn't a good fit. And their 1-star Yelp review is them having to express that, but finding a response to it. And my response is internally is, I'm sorry that I'm not that person. I don't have to live my life like that. Or I'm so miserable that I'm running around blasting my miserability to, is that a word? Miserability?
Sure, it is.
Sounds great.
It is now, right? I'm blasting it to the world. But I do know my worth, because I just helped and changed the life of a young person and their family. And I also think knowing who you are helps you say no, and helps you to be able to protect your time and protect yourself. But finding out who you are and figuring out who you are is an interesting challenge and journey to begin with, especially if you've never done that before.
And that's the explore phase. So I think we're all in a very similar parts of our career. But I remember in school, the word that just was ringing so loud in my head was find your niche. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? Like, find your niche. And it just, when I graduated, hadn't found my niche. It wasn't glaucoma. I hadn't found my niche. I really got into scleral lenses. I can speak about it. But what then fell in my lap was myopia management. And that's where I just light up. And it took me a long time. It took me 7 years to find that. And when I see, and I've blocked time, I love reading that. I love speaking about it. I love implementing new things around it. So my team also knows that that's what lights me up. And then it starts to light them up. So when you see like, oh, I've got to see this patient, right? Like, what are those patients? Is there someone else in your clinic that can do it? That's, again, why I'm so fortunate to have wonderful colleagues that I work alongside with, right? Is we've all found kind of our lane and respect that and honor that in each other. And that comes from when we talk to reps. It comes to, it's just that attitude that we have in the practice where, and not, we've got, like 1 or 2 people here, but it's that 1% growth a day, being 1% better and surrounding yourself with that positivity versus that like, and you can, right now, you probably are sitting there like, I have this one employee that I just know. And no matter how much you're going to pour into them, you're never going to be able to turn that dial. So the word here is decision. And it says the Latin root of the word decision, cis or sid, literally means to cut or to kill. And that gets us back to that yes or no. So yes, again, it's the wrong thing to say versus the no. And I'll throw something out. So one of my amazing associates, she was becoming president of our local society, which I helped get her on the board and to see her get there. But I'd been gone for a long time and I needed Saturday night with my kids. And 2 people asked me where I was, and I knew I was in the right place cuddling with my baby versus being there. As much as I wanted to be in 2 places at once, no one's going to remember if I was there or not. And then I took her out to an amazing lunch, and we had that night out on the town together. So it's realizing that it doesn't always have to be for the show. You have to show up for you.
I found, too, that no's have... I don't think I've had a no that has been a permanent no. And what I mean by that is most of them have been not right nows. Right? And, even with a rep, hey, I want to show you a new piece of equipment. Now, I'll tell them no, but I guarantee you if I call them next month and say, hey, I'm interested, they'll show up just as happy back at the office. Right? And so it's we're not, cutting people off. We're not killing anything. We're not... it's not this drastic, I can't do it. It's just not right now, which I think made it easier to say no initially.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to jump to the back of the book. Let's pivot towards helping our teams. So this is page 242. Like, this is an awesome little table here.
Oh, yeah.
It's got, it's in the appendix. It's about, let's see here, the elements of leading as an essentialist, right? Because we're all about leadership here, trying to not only lead ourselves, but lead our team, lead the profession. Aaron, you and I this weekend kind of talked about how do we lead better in our just profession? How do we help other optometrists to be more essentialist in their management of dry eye, of glaucoma, of all those things, right? 242, I'm going to go through here. It says the non-essentialist versus the essentialist. In terms of mindset, and this is in terms of like leading a team or leadership, the essentialist says everything to everyone. The essentialist says less but better. In terms of talent, hires people frantically and creates a bozo explosion. That'd be the non-essentialist. The essentialist ridiculously selective on talent and removes people who hold the team back. Honestly, the thought that comes to mind right now is the essentialist is one that has courage, don't you think? Like, you gotta have some courage to be an essentialist, right? To subtract things, to be decisive, to say no. I think that's probably, if I were to be brutally honest. That's probably what holds me back to being a
Yeah.
full blown essentialist. But yeah,
Well,
strategy, the
Kyle, but
non-essentialist.
hold on. I'll jump on that point because
Yeah,
going back to identity, right? Who do we
yeah,
respect the most, and who are our heroes when we look up, and our mentors, right? They're the people that have courage. And
for
so
sure.
it's for me, that comment hit home in that we respect the people that have courage, yet it takes courage because for some reason we think that we're going to be perceived in a different way when exactly how we're going to be perceived is the people that, is the type of person that others look up to, that others are envious of in a positive envy sense. So it's kind of an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well said.
Courage to admit that you don't know things
Yeah.
Hmm.
and asking for help. I think so many
Yeah,
times as the leader, you think that you should have all the answers.
yeah,
One of the Dan Martellisms is he makes his team, he goes, you guys should be working on yourselves more than you're working here. I want you working more on yourself than you're working for me. Because if you don't have that EQ or emotional intelligence about you and that growth factor, and guys, if you think I'm the one that's going to have all of the answers, he goes, we're like in this industry, we're screwed. And that's actually how I'm leading my team now because I always have them take demos and have the
Hmm.
courage to bring me a decision. I can't make all these decisions, guys. I just can't. Nor do I want to.
Yeah.
Because I don't, then I'd be making a bad decision for you because I'm not in your day and day. So I think it's also that courage word really struck a chord there, Kyle.
Yeah, that's good. Strategy. The non-essentialist pursues a straddled strategy where everything is a priority, whereas the essentialist defines an essential intent by answering the question, if we could only do one thing, what would it be? Eliminates the non-essential distractions. Empowerment. A non-essentialist allows ambiguity over who is doing what. Decisions are capricious. The essentialist focuses on each team member's highest role and goal of contribution. And then in terms of communication, the non-essentialist talks in code. The essentialist listens to get what is essential. So it's more speaking versus listening. Accountability, this is a good one. Non-essentialist checks in too much or is so busy he or she checks out altogether. Sometimes does both, disrupting the focus of the group and then being absent to the group. Whereas the essentialist checks in with people in a gentle way to see how he or she can remove obstacles. So removing obstacles and enable small wins. I love that right there. That's like truly leadership, isn't it? Don't you
Yep.
think? Like
100%.
how do I make this person, how do I empower this person, hold them accountable, make them better, and help them win the day? It's by like doing that exact thing. It's removing the obstacles, helping them remove the obstacles in their way, and then enabling those, like clearly defining those small wins and celebrating those when they achieve them.
So I recently saw an AI prompt. So this is also like where I don't know what's on a lot of your feeds. So my jam is obviously LinkedIn. That's all that I'm on. I'm not on any other system. And
Mhm.
what I've curated now is my feed is really like AI, healthcare tech, leadership, what people are working on. Some of it's marketing, but my feed really is that. And I saw a prompt the other day that I went and did, and it said, in the chats that we've had, what am I deeply passionate about? What taps my talent? And what meets a significant need in the world? And then help me come up with a plan.
Ooh.
And it's amazing if you are using chat or Claude or one
Mhm.
of these entities. It even gave me like an image and
Wow.
a foundation and expansion. I'll have to share it with both of you, but it was really cool on what am I focusing on that is going to get me there,
Mm.
and what do I need to start cutting out. And also knowing there's one of my coaches, he talks about like ABC days. So you're never always on an A day. That's just not human. And so one thing that was sucking my energy was really still seeing patients a day and a half a week because I think it's a critical piece of my growth and my expansion. And I'm still the owner of there, and it gives me all the, I hate when people get up on stage and they're like, dude, you haven't seen a patient in like 4 years. Yes, let me go do that. When I come and 2 people are out and I have a schedule of 40 patients and my fire extinguisher is expired and my Optos just went down and my pets' heads are falling off, like, yes, let me implement that right now. Right?
That was last week, wasn't it?
Patient care really is that hard. But we were able to re-expand it because patient care for me is super easy, right? I'm going to shoot the shit with my patient and take really good care of them. And I'm really good at sales in getting them what they need. So I did, Kyle, I ran my numbers, that OD revenue per hour. That was eye-opening. Oh my God. My associates were at like 580. I'm at over 1,700.
Okay. Yep. There you go. Now you know.
And that, again, that's less is more because I'm condensing care.
Yep.
So I'm not expanding it over time. So that really showed me that I was a little over, and I always will always be a little over
for sure
as far as employees and team members. But what we recalibrated that day is that's my off day. So patient care is my recovery day. So even my doctor contact lens people, because doctor contact lens is like on all the time, all these calls, right? And that's my recovery day. And just that little flip has helped me so much in waking up that Tuesday, Wednesday, going into my recovery day.
It's interesting that you shared that. I recorded Dave Kading. We're all friends with Dave, so I recorded him yesterday. Hopefully the episode will be released tomorrow. So if you're listening to this on recording, it's already been released. But we talked about specialties in optometry, and my initial push was I don't like the word specialist because it segments us too much. And he had a very interesting take, and I think I've now team Dave Kading's take on this, is that we should all have emphasis, and we're primary care doctors that and I think it was just a simple change the word, right? So, or my specialty is myopia management. I like my emphasis as myopia management because I'm still spending 70% of my time in primary care. But that extra 30%, the recovery, which you're, the hyper focus you're looking on, is on that one thing that I'm passionate about and I do really well, and that keeps me excited. I need to do the others because that's my job, but I can focus on what it is that I love to focus on, and then building up just a really good referral network, whether it's within your clinic or within other optometric clinics, so that if you do myopia management, and I may not like kids, but I like glaucoma. Not saying you send me 100% of your glaucoma, but maybe you hit a point where, monotherapy is not working anymore and you don't want to go down the rest of it, or wherever that point is where you can send it over to somebody who loves it, and that person sends you the stuff that you love once they hit a point that it gets past the just general primary care aspect of it. But I really like that idea of knowing who you are, still doing the work, but being able to explore your passion.
This in your practice, where now we're, oh my God, it's already going to be June. We've talked about goal setting at the very beginning of the year. And when it comes to setting priorities or priority, right, which was a single word until we made it not a singular word, your focus for your team is just one thing every quarter.
Yep.
And that also comes back to Aaron, you with the slow is fast and fast is slow. So there's so many shiny objects to be chasing. If you look back to pre-COVID, we didn't have a lot of this stuff, guys. Like, now we're therapists, we're primary care doctors, we're everything in between. I mean, our exams, if you look pre-COVID, what you were fitting into an exam to what you're trying to fit in now, there's no way. Like, we went from 15 minutes to 20 minutes. I could never get back to 15 minutes. Right. Just from what we're doing with pre-testing, how we're gathering all of the data. And we've gotten better at the schedule. But Kyle, how do you keep your team focused on that? Because there's a boredom factor that, like, oh, okay, we've got it down. But do they really?
Yeah. I I honestly think like doing, you're right. We focus on one thing. We have three questions that we always talk about. One question is like, why do we exist? The second question is how do we behave? The third question is what is most important now? So we review those three questions at every weekly
Say them
meeting.
one more time.
Yep.
Why do we exist?
Hmm.
How do we behave? Which is just a review of our core values. And then number three is what is most important now? And that what is most important now question is the same thing for the entire quarter. And so that's what leads into, hey, what's most important now? Like right now, we started with the life meter. We have the MacuHealth life meter that we started at the beginning of the quarter at both of our locations. So what is most important right now is making sure that we follow through on the protocol that we created to test patients for their carotenoid levels and then have a, a nice, thorough discussion with them based upon the results, and then creating recommendations for either follow up or feedback or anything like that. So we have specific KPIs that we review every single meeting. And honestly, I feel like, you kind of, I love new things. I love new, shiny, pretty things. I think that's probably the entrepreneur in me. And so I do get kind of burned out after 6 to 8 weeks. I'm like, oh man, we're still doing this. Let's move on to the next. But I know that my team really isn't yet. And so I've just known like I got to continue to ask that question. What's most important now? What's most important now? Keep reviewing, keep reviewing. But I think that even a quarterly question or focus, sometimes I'll take a quarter off and just say, hey, like we're really busy right now. Uh, there's another book called The Four Disciplines of Execution that talk about the whirlwind, basically like you're living in the whirlwind, which is essentially just the everyday grind. And sometimes the whirlwind of the practice is enough. We're like, you know what? This next quarter, we're not going to do anything new. We're just going to let you guys, and I know my team well enough to sense that they are fatigued with new stuff and new improvements and continuous development talk all the time. So I think that's how we keep them motivated.
There is a chapter
Is
just be, Kyle.
is there?
There's a B chapter. Just be.
Oh, really?
Just
Okay.
be.
Where was that? Oh, yeah, that's right. Did I read
Kyle's-
that? Did I read that? I don't think I read that. No,
Kyle it didn't speak to you, Kyle.
I didn't. I just moved on. I was like, no, I don't
Yeah.
want to just be. Let's keep getting better.
Hey, can I share
Thanks, but no thanks.
a learning and a personal failure that
Please.
that caught on me, and you reminded me of it. Speaking of the life meter, because we've had it now for a while, and we were very good at implementing it, and very successful with it. The numbers were good, but in moving forward, I love data. We tracked all our patients. We tracked who took it. So I've got a really cool set of data that shows what our average patient score coming in, which is pretty sucky, right? 400 is good, and our average patient is like 200, so
Yep. Same
pretty
here.
sucky.
Mhm.
And then we just check a box. Are you on life? Are you take MacuHealth? You take nothing, or you take something else? And the MacuHealth is if they bought it from us. I'm assuming they're taking it. When I analyze the data, our patients that are on MacuHealth see a 100-point increase in about a 6-month period on life meter score, and the ones that aren't taking anything see like a 10-point increase over a year. I didn't have enough to really analyze the taking something else, mostly because the handful we had was a negative number, so I didn't want to completely pull that out. But the learning and the failure for my part is I never communicated all that data to the team. And so they're going through the system. I know how well it's working, but I never shared that with them until yesterday at our team meeting. And I've been sitting on this for 6 months now. And I've told others, and the failure in communication of me, the me moving 1,000 miles an hour and always trying to, want to go to the next thing, never made me pause and go back and share it with them, which is only going to empower them even more. And they're the ones doing it all. They're the ones having the conversation. They're the ones doing the reading, selling the MacuHealth, so the hit for me was in the gut punch when I told them and I saw their faces light up. But then knowing that I had been sitting on it for so long, it just never followed up that last little bit of closing the loop, but letting them know, the impact that they're having.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
awesome.
I think what my big takeaway is just taking a pause, just taking a practice pause before you say yes, before you say no. And we all, I love this group because it's an accountability for all of us in the fact that we can call each other crying, we can call each other laughing, all of the gamut. Like, it's just that human life that we're all living and want to live it to its fullest. And so that's what the essence of essentialism is really that life of meaning and a life that really matters, where we're all trying to find that purpose. And we all have those questions, right? But then it's, let me check my phone at the stoplight. Like, can you just be and breathe? And that's, I think, tools that I've equipped myself with, whether it was from yoga, like I found yoga in 2010 and never honked my horn again. Like, just little things like that, where maybe that person just, okay, you do you, boo. Like, whatever, just move out of the way. So what he says is, if you take one thing from the book, it's whatever decision or challenge or crossroads you face in your life, just simply ask yourself what is essential and eliminate everything else.
I love that.
Great way to end it. Good job.
And our next book?
Introduce our next book, Brianna.
He's actually talked about this book a lot in this book, which is How the Mighty Fall by Jim Collins. And we stumped one of the book nerds here, Sky.
Yeah.
Kyle's never read this one.
I've never read the book. Been on my list for years. Finally. It's gonna be good. I'm excited for it.
It feels like a good beginning of summer read.
Yeah,
It's got a little bit of interest and mystique. Something the mighty is gonna fall. Right?
It is. Add it to your summer reading list. I'm gonna have to add it. I've already got my post ready for Friday on LinkedIn. It's actually my summer reading list. I'll have to redo that though, and add this one to it. So we'll have to add the How the Mighty Fall.
How the Mighty Fall, and that is June 25th. So mark your calendars. And if my math is right, it's 1 p.m. Central. So
that's right.
Would love for you to join us on that, and we'll find out who fell and how not to fall.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.